Sounds so fucking good in here. I don't have any fun at all. Listen to this lick, brand new lick, Dash, called Skinny Bitches. Ready? It's a love song. It goes.
And now, it's time for the Spirit Campfire, starring Ted Nugent and John Brinkus. It's the show about the physics of spirituality with attitude.
Welcome all to the Uncle Ted Free for All Motor City Speedway. It's Ted Nugent with flames coming out of his ass. Bring the marshmallows and the kielbasa. John, I mean, are you having fun with me yet? You got into this because you needed more fun in your life. Tell me it's true.
It is 100% true that I needed more fun in my life. Ted Nugent always said, you want to have fun, hang out with me. And we're hanging out around the campfire. Here's what's unbelievable. Already we have over 1,000, like what you see and like what you hear. Go ahead and hit the heart. Hit the heart. Hit it a lot. Hit the heart.
And how cool is it, John, that we've had people come on and witness the Nugent Brinkus, firestorm campfire physics of spirituality with attitude. We've had them come from over in England and Scotland and Ireland and Belgium and Australia and all across America. And I got a bunch of buddies up in Canada right now. But, we had a great guest on last week. And, I don't even like to talk like it's a radio or a TV or a podcast because it is the Spirit Campfire. But having Billy Gibbons on last week, we were able to do the swan dive into the most important soul music history in America. But as awesome as Billy was, and he's right up there at the top shim of awesome. If you want to talk about swan diving and doing the breaststroke in the history of the most soulful music of the world, and I'll try to keep this short because I could go on and on introducing my buddy. When I was 12 years old in Detroit, I had a band called the Lourdes. And we went out to Walled Lake Casino out by Novi, Michigan, just west of Detroit. And we opened up for a band called Billy Lee and the Rivieras and Martha and the Vandellas and Gene Pitney. It was like a dance hall on this resort beach type area. And I was already into the Black Gods of Thunder. And a James Brown fan, Wilson Pickett, the Motown stuff was already permeating my soul. But when I walked in there with my little Fender Duosonic and a twin reverb amp, and I looked on stage and I saw Jimmy McCarty playing a Birdland through a Fender Twin, Joe Kubrick playing a Gibson 335 through a Fender Twin, Earl Elliott with black silk gloves playing a Rickenbacker bass through a B18 Ampeg, and Johnny Bonangic, this teenage force of nature on drums, doing things with his bass drum that God had not authorized at that point in time yet. And then I watched this guy on stage that was a professional Electro Voice 664 microphone, and he went through 12 tambourines per song, and I actually ripped my shirt open just to absorb the sweat that was tsunamiing off the chest of Billy Lee and the Rivieras. Eventually, they changed their name to Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, just paying ultimate reverence to the Motor City spirit and musical authority. And tonight, I welcome my original fire-breathing musical influence that gave me all the soul direction, all the power drive musical authority that Ted Nugent could possibly be responsible for. Mitch Ryder is at the Spirit Campfire. Mitch, have I told you lately how much I love you?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's nice to be loved in a business where love is a rare commodity.
So somebody do the arithmetic. If that was 1962-ish, how many years ago was that? Is that almost 60 years ago?
I failed math, so I can't help you. I don't even know how old I am. It feels
That's a good thing.
It is a very good thing. As I was telling you before we got on camera, I'm in the studio now, and because there's nothing else to do, but we can't go out and gig, right? So I'm in the studio, and it's just, it's so heartwarming to be making music. I mean, it's like the biggest thrill of my life, next to hearing an applause, which is the original drug, studio, making music. That's what it's all about. I just can't give it up, and I will do it until I drop.
Well, Mitch, you know, with that same just absolute addiction to the creative juices that channel the music of our original influences, don't you think in June of 2020 it's astounding that Ted Nugent remembered every instrument and every amplifier and every microphone that you guys had that night?
I do think that's got to be remarkable, because you certainly didn't have any reference for it except your memory. You know,
That's right. I wasn't aware of Rickenbacker's. I mean, Earl was one of the first. So I'd like to just start.
You know
out,
why?
John.
You know why he wore? Do you know why he wore the silk gloves? He told me. I was curious, and you're going to love this. He didn't want to get blisters on his fingers.
No kidding. And of course, the way he played to keep up with Johnny Bonanjic's bass drum.
Oh yeah.
Eventually
He
developed
had
blisters,
to.
wouldn't you?
Take Jenny, Take a Rider for its top 10. I mean, that bass line is like really cool. Really cool. And that's Earl, you know, with gloves on, but he's doing the job. And Johnny.
By the way, I don't know how the music's going to sound, but here's the bass line to Jenny Take a Ride.
Whoa.
I mean, just constant hammering. That's where I got all this stuff.
Well, you know what? It's a funny thing about Earl. Earl bought a condo directly across from where the Walled Lake Casino stood before they removed it. And he takes his little paddle boat across the lake and religiously visits that place practically every day in the summer. I mean, it's a vacant lot, but there it was, the ground that the Walled Lake Casino stood on. And they're great memories. That's the first time somebody jumped into a crowd. It was my idea, but nobody caught me. They just
They made.
All right, let's talk about that. John, I got to tell you,
they opened up like the Red Sea, and I hit the floor like a mosquito.
So no one had previously jumped off the stage?
Not in my experience, and not with my fans. They just opened up. Give him room. He's gonna crash. Boom.
Exactly. So
John,
if nobody had ever done it, and you're leaping off the stage, what made you think people would catch you?
The same thing that made me think in the 80s that I could go to Japan and jump from table to table and still perform. And what I did was, we were playing for an afternoon thing for automobile executives, you know, because Japan was at that time coming on strong. Right. And so they had a lot of Americans and a lot of Japanese, and we were invited because Detroit, right? So that was their association. That was their identification. The men had on tuxedos. The women had on these beautiful diamond sequined dresses and gowns. Everybody was so proper. And they had on these white linen tablecloths. And I'm thinking to myself, after a little bit of sake, hey, this would be really cool if I take this off the stage and onto the tables. And so I leaped and I hit that first slicked up table, because underneath that linen was a highly waxed tabletop. And I skid off of that, and I could see ahead that the next table was going to hit me right around my knees. And so I hit that table, and then I was sliding on my stomach and realized I was going headlong into the third table. Went into the third table, still had my microphone, and I looked back, the tables are turned over, women are on the ground with food all over and their legs up in the air, the men's clothes are all in disarray, everybody's screaming at me in Japanese, the promoter comes and drags me out, and I was kicked out of Japan.
Well, let's talk where that came from. I got to tell you, John, when I first saw what Mitch was doing up there, the rhythm and the groove and the pummeling, the inescapable throttle of their music was unprecedented. So when Mitch is telling you this story about how he just followed his guts, or maybe just was stoned on the throttle of the music. But what he did and what he taught everybody in Detroit, and everybody talks about the MC5 and Bob Seger and now Kid Rock and the M&Ms of the world, and so many bands, whether it's Grand Funk Railroad or Brownsville Station, so many wonderful bands. We learned that if you're going to rock out, let it rip. I mean, just go nuts. And what Mitch had done later on, I guess there was a guy named Wayne Cochran and the CC Riders that learned from James Brown and learned from Mitch Ryder. And he would do that, jumping from table to table, kicking people's drinks and knocking over candles. So the energy level that Mitch Ryder taught us in Detroit, the Motor City Madman owes all of that. Now, Mitch, I got to ask you, you had never seen anybody do intense, crazy stuff. You never saw anybody break 6 tambourines per song. Nobody played a bass drum.
No, they didn't.
Played this throttle. Where the hell did kids with no reference to that intensity? You were teenagers. Johnny Bonangic was 15.
14.
Where the hell did you come up with that energy and that piss and vinegar?
We were angry young men. I mean, if you want to give it, you got to live it. And we just, it wasn't drugs. It was way too early for drugs. And it wasn't drinking. We weren't drinking even. It was just, I really can't explain it, Ted. It was just, we were feeding off of each other, and every one of us had energy to give. And so when somebody would kick it up a notch, the next guy would kick it up a notch until it got manic, until it got totally manic. And everybody got manic together. That was the beauty of it. You know, that was the beauty of that group. In all the years.
What you're talking about is a unified dedication to a given song, a given tempo. There was an element for a bunch of white goofballs from Detroit that you latched on to a soulfulness that you had to get from a James Brown or the Wilson Pickett or Stax Volt or the mighty Funk Brothers of Motown. But that you guys were too young to even look to those references. So my point is, John, Mitch and Johnny and Earl and Joe and my hero Jimmy McCarty, they literally invented what eventually the Stones would do on Connections and Street Fightin' Man, and the Beatles would do on their more high energy songs. I got to tell you, they got it from Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels. And anybody listening right now, if you had never heard Jenny Take a Ride or Devil with the Blue Dress or Shake a Tail Feather or the early Mitch Ryder stuff, you have no idea what a firestorm of a tight band uniting to a given musical statement is. And Mitch, I know I've said it before, but I'd like to say it right here at the Spirit Campfire. Thank you. I would, if it wasn't for my witnessing, the over-the-top intensity of Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, there would never be a Motor City Madhouse or a Wang Dang Sweet Poontang or a Stranglehold or my new album, The Music Made Me Do It, and Big Fun Dirty Groove Noise. So, Mitch, thank you for that animal inspiration, because I couldn't have got it from anybody else.
Well, that's okay. If we weren't quite the same age, I would probably think you were my son.
I doubt that. I'm 72 this year. You're only a few years older than me, right?
Yeah, I'm a few years older than you, yeah.
So you guys were just teenagers. I wasn't even quite a teenager, and you guys were just teenagers. So, John, the point is, so when they invented it. So, Mitch, I got to tell you, there's a lot of musicians that listen to the Spirit Campfire. When you guys got together and practiced, share with us the direction and the dialogue, because all the musicians, Jimmy, Joe, Johnny, Earl and Mitch, they were musicians. So you had to have dialogue of how these songs could be accented for intensity. What were those discussions like, since you were in uncharted territory?
Well, the very first discussion I had was with Johnny, the drummer. And he had a bass drum that was from the 40s, I think. It had to be like 50 inches wide. And he had calfskin heads. And I remember helping him take the calfskins off, getting them wet, stretching them, putting them back on the drums and letting them dry in place. And then at that point, I understood that this takes dedication. And Jimmy McCarty, I don't know if you knew this, but he was a jazz drummer for a couple of years before he even picked up a guitar. So he was a serious musician. He also had to be the breadwinner for his family. I don't know if you knew that, as a young teenager. And so he had a determination and a dedication to his profession. Well, all of them are Detroit boys inside the city limits of Detroit. And they, I don't know what combination of elements made them so ferocious and dedicated, but that was the trip. And so the conversations, as you were alluding to, would be technical, always technical, stylistic technical, instrumentally technical, electronically technical. All of our conversations centered solely around music. We weren't talking about babes that we wanted to lay. We weren't talking about getting some booze. We were constantly talking about music in as serious terms as we could make them, drawing on our knowledge. And I was a great fan of urban music, and I brought that sensibility. You know, at one point, I was actually competing in high school singing semi-classical music, and I won a Tri-County Award for Macomb, Wayne, and Oakland, singing semi-classical. And my vocal coach, when I left school and had a hit record, I went to visit him, and he said, "What have you done to yourself?" What? You know, and this was like, he thought I was going to be like another Pavarotti or something. And I'm going, oh, hell no. You know, I'm listening to too much. Little Richard's just a little too much. You know, I gotta understand where that's coming from. I got to know over the years all of those people. Otis Redding, James Brown, Little Richard, Wilson Pickett. I did a 13-city tour with his band and my band, and so it was. I was a urban. The boys were raised in the same urban experience as me, so they knew damn well how to access that genre. But they also, and I wanted it myself too, to be a rock and roll band. So our quest was to find a way to mesh those two styles. And we weren't hearing it on the radio from anybody. We weren't hearing those two styles being mixed. We were hearing straight rock and roll or straight urban music, you know, but it was never put together. And the things that I witnessed on the stage as a lead man from the heroes that I earlier mentioned, I integrated the best parts of those into my act. And the band, well, Jimmy, I don't know where the hell he picked it. He would listen to jazz players. He would listen to blues players. We shared the same room in New York for a while. And we'd come home from a gig, and we all got to unwind after a gig. Everybody knows that. So I laid my head down in the bed, and Jimmy's going to practice or listen to records for a while. And he would listen to entire records of jazz artists or whoever he wanted to. And finally, the album would be over, and I'd say, okay, that was great. Now we can get some sleep. And I'd shut my eyes, and the fuck if he didn't open his guitar case and pull out his guitar and start to practice. Okay.
See, John, that's
Yeah.
see, and Mitch, I've always, in my millions of interviews, I have always called my music rhythm and blues and rock and roll, and never just pure rock and roll, even though the energy is there, the identification is inescapable. But because of that urban black influence, I've always focused on the groove and the tightness, which again, I repeat, that's what I learned from Earl Elliott and Johnny Benangic, the original Mitch Ryder rhythm section. To this day, any drummer, I played with the greatest drummers that ever lived, from Anton Fig to Denny Carmassi to Carmine Appice to Tommy Aldridge, Tommy Clafettos, Jason Hartless, Mick Brown. I mean, Cliff Davies. I could go on. The greatest drummers that ever lived, and all of them revere Johnny Banagic, and Johnny was able to perform on a recent album of mine. So what you're hearing, John?
Whoa, really?
Cool.
Cool.
I want to jump in really quick because we have a huge Facebook audience tonight, and let me know on Facebook if everybody tell me where you're from. Let me know where you're listening from because we have listeners and viewers from all over the world. I have a question,
Got
Mitch,
some down in Georgia.
Viewers, who's asking about, look, if the lineage, if you just literally look up Mitch Ryder, the names that come up that you have influenced are Bob Seger, John Mellencamp, Bruce Springsteen, Ted Nugent. So if you say, okay, those artists were all inspired by Mitch, and if Mitch Ryder the question is, if Mitch Ryder had to draw a lineage, what would that be? Because you were the first of this kind of music. But if you had to draw the Springsteen, Nugent, Mellencamp, Seeger, who would be the people that came before you that you would credit the most?
Wow. Well,
This is a good one.
yeah, I wasn't the first singer, good singer to come out of Michigan.
That's it. I think the point is, I don't know what the lineage would be because you created this genre of music that inspired so many other musicians to follow.
I got to tell you, John, Mitch invented this stuff. I'm sure he can name some artists, but there was nobody that just terrorized the music, the intensity, the passion, the emotion, the authenticity. But Mitch, I had told John earlier that the world doesn't really acknowledge adequately the gargantuan, Herculean work ethic of the artists out there that deliver the music and the soundtrack of our life. Mitch established that. Of course, they said James Brown, hardest working man in show business, rehearsals. But you guys didn't have any peers to guide you. So I'm going to repeat John's question and the listeners' questions. Who came before Mitch Ryder that when you finally snarled those lyrics and you beat that microphone and you screamed, every song had a forehead vein popping crescendo, every song. And that's why your vocal instructor said you're ruining your life, your voice, because he was so intense. So can you really name influences? Because there was nothing like you before you.
Well, honestly,
he's stymied. There was nobody. He invented it.
Yep. No, I would have to give you a smorgasbord of names that I made this beautiful salad from and ate the salad all by myself. And then what I digested, it came out in my poop, and my poop was like atomic. Okay. It was
that's a quote I haven't heard much.
But I couldn't have, as much as I did working in the with the black group that I worked with before I got with the Wheels, the Peps, and as many of those shows that I did with them, I never was surrounded by like-minded, dedicated people as much as me until I ran into the Wheels. So I was doing great learning, and I took that learning experience, and when I collided with the Wheels, it was like it was more like giving birth to a baby. It was like a sperm entering an egg, It wasn't a collision that scattered everything all over the place. Right. It wasn't atomic. It wasn't as atomic as my shit turd was. So, it was great.
That's awesome. Hey,
and that only lasted historically for 3 years, and that was because we were the victims of some really, really shitty, evil, mean-minded businessmen in New York. And that's all I got to say about that.
Wow.
Yeah. God bless you, man.
Ted, I got it. We have a really good question from Facebook. Kevin Scholl from Omaha, Nebraska wants to know, how did Mitch come up with the song Red Scar Eyes?
Wow. That's cool.
That's going back.
He's probably Well, Red Scar Eyes is a Europe. It was originated in Europe. It was a German release, and the owner of the record company asked me, "Well, what does that mean, Red Scar Eyes?" And I had to explain to him, and he did his best with his knowledge of English. But basically, it's your life and how it affected your eyes. And so what you've seen in your life, and that's what it meant to you. And it left scars on your eyes. Your life's vision, what you've witnessed, left scars at Red Scar Eyes.
I can't believe I can still see then. I can't believe I'm not blind by now.
You should be blind.
Actually, I have special eyes. You know how you get this LASIK surgery, so you get your eyeballs all cleared up? I actually had a special surgery. I look at life through crosshairs. I have crosshairs on my.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Well,
I want to know.
While we're
Mitch.
over there, I need Ted to help me with something while we're right there on crosshairs. Ted, can you find a good leather man in Georgia or in Chattanooga across state line that can help me make a good shoulder holster for my 380p?
Mitch, you could do interviews the rest of your life, and you've probably done a bunch of them. But luckily, you're on the interview tonight with Ted Nugent, because I'm the only guy who could probably service that question. And the answer is a resounding yes. I got a bunch of custom holster manufacturers. In fact, Galco is a great, great holster manufacturer. And I will call you personally, and we'll find out the exact one you're carrying, and we'll get you the ultimate shoulder holster. You can be 007 when I get done with you.
Okay. I got two. I got a Glock and a little 38 P.
Sure, I'll get one for each.
Okay, oh, double.
And a spare mag holder too. Well, I got to tell you, John, you're hearing from my hero.
Yeah.
And Mitch, I got to ask you. So I witnessed what you guys did, and I literally hung on every record you ever made. And I sat down with that record and played it on my little record player and kept lifting up the needle to learn what Johnny was doing on the bass drum and the snare and the way he played. I listened to every lick that Earl Elliott did, because we all played. We played all the Mitch Ryder hits, and we did your version of Shake a Tail Feather and Land of a Thousand Dances and all those songs. But I would lift up that needle and I would learn lick for lick, John, what Mitch is referencing to the great Jimmy McCarty, which is why I have a Gibson Birdland here. And it was that kind of dedicated work ethic that came before me in order for a jazz, blues, very eclectic musical fan like Jimmy and Earl and even Joe, the way he played rhythm guitar, and certainly Johnny Managic and Mitch. But I got to tell you, I don't think the world has ever admitted that before the Stones and the Beatles and the Who and the Yardbirds and the Kinks and all these British invaders who brought American music back, they're all the Black American heroes: Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Bo Diddley, Jerry Lee Lewis, all the Motown Funk Brother masterpieces. But really, it was Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels that established a pulsation, an authenticity. When Mitch sang, for years, everybody thought Mitch Ryder was a black dude like Wilson Pickett or all these super, super soulful singers. So, Mitch, I just want to make it official, even though I know you've seen a lot of interviews where I always praise you guys, but the world should check out the Mitch Ryder catalog, going all the way up to the most recent stuff, including his version of Rock and Roll with a different band than the original Wheels, and examine where all your favorite music comes from. I don't care if it's Green Day or the Chili Peppers or Sammy Hagar or Aerosmith or ZZ Top or Van Halen. All of them have their roots, what Mitch and especially Johnny Managic and Earl did as a rhythm section. You get the guys like Carmine Appice and Tim Bogart and the incredible Vanilla Fudge virtuosos, and they'll all reference Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels. So everybody examine that stuff.
Yeah, Jimmy's actually played with Carmen, I think, and done tours with those guys. And, Jimmy had his own contract on Atlantic. He was one of the more successful ones out of the group, landing that in the gig. And he was probably the most talented one in terms. When I say talent, I mean his knowledge of his instrument, and he was so fast. His fingers were so fast. Listen to like on Jenny. Yeah, listen to the solo on Jenny Take a Ride. My God,
I know it lick for lick. Yeah.
Hey, Ted, do you want me to play a little Jenny Take a Ride?
Yes, I would. I want people to turn up whatever kind of apparatus they're listening to it on. And of course, we apologize that the technology can't translate 1960s sonics, even though the sonics from 1960s were far superior to anything that you'll hear today. But yes, listen to the pulsations, and we'll talk about what the musicians did. And even though Bob Crew turned out to be a complete dirtbag, he really did capture you guys on those first recordings. Do you agree with that, Mitch?
I agree. And I also agree that Telefunkens are good microphones.
Yes. Yeah, play that, John. I'd love people to hear Jenny Take a Ride, my #1 musical influence.
Here we go.
I'm not hearing it.
You're not hearing it?
No, but I can play it.
I can faintly hear it.
Can you hear it,
It's
Mitch?
playing on my system. I'll try to figure it out.
Anyhow, hey Mitch, have you ever heard? I know you got a bunch of different bands when you work around the country, around the world, actually, and I'm sure they do a great job, or you wouldn't work with them. But tell me, anybody can capture the tambourine, the maracas, Johnny's hi-hat and bass drum, and Jimmy's rhythm guitar track better than this. Oh, see, right. I mean, I got that chicken stuff down. God bless
You
Jimmy
do.
McCarty.
You do. I was tapping my feet here. It was great.
See, what that was, it was a combination of Earl playing great stuff, not just boom, 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 but boom, 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 and Johnny.
And you had the drums in there. You had the drums, and that's the way Johnny played. It was just a straightforward ahead power surge. It was like a strike of lightning that never stopped. It was weird.
Like I said, he performed on my recent album a couple albums ago, and it was just one of my dreams come true. And even as we get old, I'm telling you, it was the Walled Lake Casino, 1962, in that studio just a couple years ago, because that energy and that attitude and that spirit and love for and dedication to the music. As you tour, didn't you just get back when I met you for lunch last year? You had just got back from Europe. You still tour in Europe every year, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know about this coming year because they may stop Americans, other than government people, from going over there, and that would direct. In fact, this March, when we returned from the last tour, we were the last band to finish a tour before they shut out the lights.
Right at the last minute, right?
Very last minute, because we would go to a next city and hear on the news that the city we just left had been shut down because of the virus. And so they're being kind of dicks about it, because it reminds me of when, I don't know if you remember these days, but if you had so many artists going from America to Britain, you had to allow that many Brits to come into America.
I remember that,
yeah. So now it's kind of like, okay, America's not going to let Germans into the country, so Germans aren't going to let Americans into the country. It's a fair trade thing, I guess.
These are trying times, when your music pulsations, your music blood still flows. And I got to tell you, John, we call this the spirit campfire, Mitch, and it's the physics of spirituality with attitude. And we keep it positive even during these crazy, crazy trying times. But I got to tell you, I have a lot of piss and vinegar. I'm tenacious as hell. I'm a survivor if ever there was one. But not touring this year, I found myself grabbing my guitar and playing in the living room. And it's like heartbreak. Where's Jason Hartless on drums and Greg Smith on bass guitar? This
I
is
know.
the first year in my life since 1963 that I haven't gone out and done some form of a tour. And of course, many years, hundreds and hundreds of concerts. The last 10 years, I do anywhere between 6 weeks and 10 weeks. So it's a real wrench in the spiritual works of a creative guy. Are you feeling that as well yourself?
Very much so. And that's why I chose to take on this studio thing and create another album, because I can't, cabin fever is not in my blood. And the drug that originally hooked me more than any other drug I've ever known, the applause, I can't seem to live without that either. And the need to show that at my age, I'm still capable of doing my job. All of those things combined don't get a release sitting inside your home. And I understand strongly the need to be out there doing it. I have to be honest, and I at my age also, I don't want to put myself in a position where I might possibly contact somebody. When we go into the studio, we disinfect that thing from the ceiling to the carpet to the floor. Everything gets wiped down. Everybody's way apart from each other. There's no more than 4 people in that huge studio at one time.
You don't hear that.
And anybody that we're bringing on to the track, they come in after somebody else leaves. So, I mean, it just has to be that way. But the payoff is you're getting the music done. Now, it's not as thrilling as taking a band in, a whole band, isolating and recording. Obviously, it can't be as thrilling as that, because you're not getting that natural reaction, that live feel, which was one of our objectives as we went to New York, was to bring the live sound to the recording, because we understood that every time we went in the studio, it would be very hard to duplicate that on stage. So instead of going through that hardship, we decided to try to make it as live in the studio as we could, so it wouldn't be such a letdown when it did appear live. And then that's what we're missing in this. I'm happy I'm in the studio, but I'm missing the ability to connect directly, spontaneously with my supporting band.
Yeah, what he's talking about there, John, is a conundrum in the musicianship world. Is your best performances when you get feedback and you share the sweat and the visual expressions of the audience and the immediate reaction to a crescendo and an interesting musical movement, and you just can't get that anywhere but live. But Mitch Ryder, all my accolades and all my cheering for Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, if there's one that's more powerful than the others, is that they did accomplish an undeniable live, outrageous, big sound when they first came out with the Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels. And I think Jenny Take a Ride was the first song. And it had such a almost like a Phil Spector wall of sound, but in a rock and roll rhythm and blues tightness. Yeah. So that is a reference that all musicians, when they go in the studio, we got to make it sound like we sound live, because live, you got the ambience, you got the outrage. John, are there other listeners and viewers right now that have offered up some other
Absolutely.
questions for Mitch?
So here are some awesome questions. So first of all, one of our viewers wanted to know who is your current favorite artist? Who do you think who's your just like, you know what, that's my favorite guy or girl?
Well, you talking to me or Ted?
Yeah, Mitch.
You.
I would like to know what you know.
Oh, I'll say Ted.
Ted?
Yeah.
Wow.
Did he just say I'm his favorite artist?
He just said that you're his favorite artist.
That's because the way I just played Jenny Take a Ride. That's why he said that.
Hey,
well, thank you, Mitch. On that angle, I'm known as a Motor City madman, and I always rave about Detroit. And Mitch, as you well know, if John, you didn't know this, I've probably done more interviews, excuse me, more interviews than any artist that ever lived. And I have never failed to reference Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels and that Motor City attitude.
Well,
Wow.
that's true. He's been very consistent. I would not want to interrogate Ted. He wouldn't break easily.
I'm not breakable. Well, my favorite artists obviously are the original guys, Mitch Ryder and certainly James Brown and Wilson Pickett, the Motown Funk Brothers, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Jerry Lee Lewis, all those original founding fathers. But also today, I hear that influence when Sammy Hagar and his band, no matter what band it might be, he still has that piss and vinegar. Aerosmith has got that piss and vinegar. ZZ, there it is. I can hear that. Play that. Jenny,
You
take
hear
a
that? I
ride.
fixed it.
I want to hear it.
You all want to hear this?
My number one
right, hold on.
influence.
Here, let me set it. Let me set this up. Ready? And hold on. You're gonna like this. So, went on Spotify. I found the ultimate. Here we go.
Yeah.
Get ready to play the solo, Ted.
Yeah.
A lot of tambourines in there. Big hand clap. Here's Jimmy. Watch this.
Hold on. If you don't like that, you got to hit the heart button. You got to hit the heart button right now on Facebook. You got to hit it hard. Hit it hard. Get it up for Mitch Ryder.
Well, Mitch, I got to tell you, it's been a real pleasure knowing you all these years. I mean, we go all the way back to my origins, and there is a unique identity to everything Detroit, everything Michigan. All the artists from around the world will tell you, if you can make it in Detroit, you got a career. And if you blow it in Detroit, you ain't got a career. Is that right, Mitch?
That's for sure, because not only through the 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s, that was the place you had to be good. You had to, You had to be accepted. All the national touring artists had to make good, whether it was at Pine Knob or Cobo. They had to show up in Detroit, and they had to be accepted, and they had to do good. Otherwise, it didn't count. And I know this because when they would come into town, I would visit with them, and they would say how important it was to them, and their management would express the same to me. And Detroit was one of those places you had to be accepted or you weren't cool. And cool is an old word, but you can explain to your viewers what it means.
What it means.
Yeah.
Hey, Ted, we got a whole bunch of questions stacked up here. I want to ask you kind of rapid fire, Mitch. Joe Arsenal wants to know if Mitch and Ted would be interested in playing with Johnny at the iconic Blue Goose Inn in St. Clair Shores, Michigan.
Hello?
Well, when is that supposed to happen? Because they have travel restrictions in Michigan.
Well, maybe you guys just break the travel restrictions and just open it up.
No, wait a minute. What's this? What's this? Maybe break the travel restrictions. I got a little message for Governor Whitmer. You ain't in charge, woman. I'm coming to Michigan. I'll do anything I damn well please because my name's Ted Nugent and I'm so much smarter than you are. I know what's better for Michigan than you do. So if there's a rock out at the Blue Goose or the Old Goose or the Long Neck Goose, that's a great Mitch Ryder song, by the way, and it includes Mitch Ryder and Johnny Bonangic, I'd like to see the human being that could stop us. That would make a show unto itself.
That would. Here's a great question that I want to know. Mark Hirschberger wants to know if Mitch has a favorite artist who has covered one of his songs.
Wow, yeah. I loved, there was a movie called Eating Raoul, and Los Lobos did a cover of Devil with a Blue Dress on. Same arrangement, almost totally. Look it up on YouTube if you can.
Yeah, who is
they
it by?
did Los Lobos from LA.
Oh, okay.
And they did a cover of Devil with a Blue Dress on in Mexican.
No kidding. Well, you know, Bruce Springsteen did a damn good version with the E Street Band, and Max on the drums did a pretty good Johnny Bonangic cover on Jenny Take a Ride. So there's another great tribute.
I know. I did it with him in Cobo.
Yeah, awesome.
I got a photograph of it. I'm up on stage with Bruce doing my own songs, and he's doing them because he was putting them at the end of his concert there. And so when he came to Detroit, he wanted to know if I would be willing to. And I said, willing? Shit, sure. You're Bruce Springsteen, man. Come on.
Yeah, hell. What else you got, John? You got another question for Mitch?
Yeah, we got another question. Clyde Slate wants to know if Mitch was influenced, how the Beach Boys worked into the equation. Who was influencing who as you were coming?
Now, let me get this straight. He wants to know.
This is Clyde Slate.
The equation between me and the Beach Boys.
Yeah. Is there any connection?
Well, there was a recording studio that I went to. I was producing a group, and we did some raw recordings and left some tapes at the studio for storage until I could get back to LA. And something occurred where I couldn't get back for quite a while, a couple months. And sure enough, one of our tracks, almost verbatim to the way we laid it down, turned up in a Beach Boys song.
Really?
So, I don't. That's the only connection I can think of, other than the fact that Brian, their singer, once said there was something. To quote him as close as I can, I think he said there's something about his voice. And
it's called soul. It's called soulfulness, Brian. You know, the Beach Boys were great, but that was a different world altogether. That was too cutesy. Mitch Ryder was not cutesy. The Beach Boys were cutesy. And the Beach Boys were awesome. Very important.
Check this out, Ted.
Eating Raoul.
This place.
Cool. They're going to start singing pretty soon.
Now that's all right, but you know, that's what happens if you're not Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels. God bless Love.
Hey, that's his favorite cover. Mitch, what's another version of a song that someone did that you just think is amazing? Bruce Springsteen's version of that song obviously is amazing. Who else did a cover that you like?
Oh gosh. Well, a number. Now we go to Europe, and that's going to be a little hard to access. But I did a song called "There Ain't Nobody White Can Sing the Blues," and that was covered by a couple German bands, and in German. So why don't we stick to the English language so we don't confound your public?
Right.
Well, I've done Johnny Take a Ride with Johnny on drums at Pine Knob a couple times, one time at Cobo Hall. So
wow.
I'd like to think that I qualify for the inner circle, if I dare say.
Oh,
so.
you do. You do. It's simply from the fact that there weren't that really many good bands around when you and I were coming up. And most of them were motionless. They were like almost zombie-like on stage.
Yeah, predictable.
And
yeah.
You were very animated, and as was I. And I think that we were different from the crowd. Okay, I'm not going to use words like exceptional, which I'd love to, but I think we were different from the crowd. And yeah, you know, there's to me, show business was not only about the music and the professionalism, but also the entertainment and the movement. And I learned that from James. You know, that you had to be moving on stage. You had to. What it did was it just heightened the entertainment value to the public. They were getting more than just, it could have been cardboard paper standing up there with the music coming out of it. That's what you got from a lot of bands. But with our young bands, yours and mine, you had a lot of action. I remember freaking out one time coming to see you. I told you this story before, but everybody's wondering, where's Ted? Where's Ted? The band's on stage. He's like 4 stories up at the top of a civic center with a rope, and he's flying down off the rope onto the stage like Tarzan on a friggin' vine. And I'm going, well, what the fuck is that about? And he landed right on stage and started playing. The guy that did the cover, let me help you find the cover so we can find
Here, I got it. So look at this. Herbert, good. Show me on screen. Ted and Mitch, look at this. Look at all this. I think I found it. The cover that you wanted. I know it's looking up on YouTube. There are only millions.
It's by a German
how many
artist.
Versions are. Is this it?
No. I'll get to. No. That's none of them. None of them. Those are on me. What the heck was his name? He had a hit with it. He later came to America and had an acting career.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Let me give you a website to visit, if you will.
Go ahead.
It's a German website, and it's probably the most definitive website to go to for my discography.
Okay.
And so it's written in German, but the word discography in German is very similar to the English word, and it's called, all lowercase, Spitting Lizard .de.
Spitting Lizard.
.de.
Lizard.
Well, that's the title. That's the title of one of my songs.
Spitting Lizard dot what?
DE.
DE.
Dog
Yeah.
Edward.
All right, hold on. I'm gonna make sure I'm spitting.
Well, being that as it may, I just want to tell you, Mitch, how honored I am to be able to share this electronic campfire with you. And we've known each other for a long, long time. And I think people witnessing the Uncle Ted Spirit Campfire tonight has had a lesson in the most meaningful, intense, emotional, passionate, fire-breathing rhythm and blues and rock and roll ever. So I'm just so glad that you're still alive and kicking. You're still making music. I can't wait to hear what you're doing in the studio there in Georgia. Let's keep in touch, because if there's any chance as you move forward, if they can send, I don't know what it is, a program, or you send a file, and maybe cut me loose and let me whip out some Motor City guitar solo on a track or so.
Sure enough, when we develop them to that point and we're ready to do those overdubs, you got it.
All
for
right.
sure. And don't forget about my shoulder holster.
I've got it written down right here. I'm gonna get with you on that personally.
Okay, great. Oh man, this has been fun.
All right. Well, Mitch,
What is- yeah, John.
just so everybody knows where to go, this website does exist. It's spitting-lizard. It's spitting-lizard .de. So if
Yeah.
everybody wants the definitive music catalog,
Discography. Yeah. Oh my God, it's all there.
yeah,
I
this
mean,
is it.
Thousands of songs. Go to the discography, and it goes by years of my life. It goes by the American years, then it goes to the introduction into the European years. Are those the categories? There we go. There we go. See, welcome to Europe, 1979, and it just goes on and on. The Line catalog, the Bush Funk catalog. Like, scroll back to the top. Yeah, see, I mean, there you go.
Wow, 62 through 2013.
Jeez.
Well, they're a little late. There's been 2 albums since then. So,
Oh my
I'll
God.
bet.
you know,
That is crazy.
they haven't got them all, but
Well, Mitch, we're going to keep in touch.
Thank you.
I hope you and your family are doing well. I hope you remain healthy and secure,
Yeah,
and
we're
safe
trying.
and cocky and defiant and rocking and in charge. And I'm so proud to call you my friend and my musical blood brother. And I'll give you a personal call the next couple of days, and we'll talk about shoulder holsters and things like that.
okay, thanks, Ted. Now listen, Tuesday I won't be around. Okay?
I'll track you down.
Okay.
Mitch Ryder,
Hey.
live at the Spirit. God bless you and your family, Mitch. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
man.
you down in Texas?
Yeah, I'm home in Texas.
All right. Well,
All
take
right.
care of yourself
Well,
too. And thanks,
We
John.
bring the Motor City Spirit to the Alamo. That's what we do.
Oh, the Alamo.
Amazing. So
One more
Ted,
story. Wait, one more story. The
wait, one
Alamo.
more story.
The Alamo. So now, if you go a couple blocks away from the Alamo and hang a right, there used to be a little Mexican bar there. And after the concert, me and the band decided to go, tequila. And we did. And we had a great time. We ate the worm. There was a band there singing mariachi. Jesus was the name of the singer. And then we took a picnic table and 2 of the benches and put them in the canal and tried to sit on them while they floated down the canal. That
Of course
didn't
you
work.
did.
So, well, why wouldn't you? So then it was getting very late, and me and the bass player, Mark Goujon, at the time, we decided we had gone that day on the tour of the Alamo. And in the Alamo was a glass encased battle map from the Alamo. And I decided I needed to have that. And the tequila directed me over the walls of the Alamo, along with my bass player. And our intent was to capture that document. And I turned around, and the bass player was hanging by a gated pierced fence. Walls of the Alamo. Yeah. And he was hanging there upside down. And I was laughing my ass off until that cold barrel got to the back of my head. we
Oh my God.
completely thought that there couldn't possibly be anybody guarding this place, right? It's a shrine,
Yeah.
It's an American shrine. And here we were entering as burglars, and Yeah, I'm sorry for that, and I apologize to the entire state of Texas.
And we accept your
God.
apology. But boy, that's what happens when a Motor City boy gets too much tequila. So I hope you
No,
listen to her.
it was the worm. It was the worm.
That's awesome.
And that's the parting story from Mitch Ryder in the wilds of Georgia. Mitch, I love you, man. You carry on. I'll talk to you Wednesday.
All right, thanks, Ted.
You bet.
So,
John, is
Ted-
that awesome or what?
dude, once again, not only do we think it was awesome, but the audience is just loving it, saying best show ever, real rock musician. This is great. I needed this, so thankful to be around the campfire with you guys. Literally, there's not one troll. There's not one negative comment. Everyone's having a great time sitting around the Spirit Campfire. It's amazing.
Well, positive energy creates positive energy, and it's already the end of, I don't know, what is this, our fourth or fifth Spirit Campfire?
Oh my God. I think it might be our fifth, to be honest with you.
I'm not keeping track, but let's keep track because it's interesting as that water roars under the bridge. But John, thank you for this, to be able to share a campfire with my original influence and Motor City hero, Mitch Ryder, is pretty damn special for me. So this is not just a positive physics of spirituality with attitude, but it's kind of a bucket list dream opportunity for me. And we got Ricky Medlock from Blackfoot and Leonard Skinner coming up in a couple weeks. We got Jack Blades and Tommy Shaw, Michael Cardelloni, the damn Yankees. I got my buddy Derek St. Holmes coming on soon, we hope. I'm going to get Michael Lutz from Brownsville Station, who's a real Motor City musical force to reckon with. We got a bunch of great guests coming up. We got George Lopez, who thinks he's as funny as I am, and we'll have him on coming up soon. And so the Spirit Campfire is pretty damn special. So I want to thank everybody who comes on my Facebook. I had a huge stack of questions and statements that I was going to share tonight, but I wanted to let Mitch run because I could do every show with Mitch Ryder. We'd never run out of stories. I'm sure there's more Alamo stories that I'm not sure we want to hear, but I have a bunch of communication with the people on my Facebook, and I thank them dearly. And I wanted to mention too that my wife Shemaine has a TV show on YouTube. It's called Simply Shemaine, and it's at facebook.com/Shemaine.Nugent. We're going to get this stuff up on the next show. I'll send you this stuff so we can put it on the screen.
Yep.
But she's got a killer TV show. She's so educational and so inspiring. So my life is educational and inspiring. It's a whirlwind of positive energy. So thank you, John, for helping create this Spirit Campfire, man.
It's amazing. Hey, everybody, make sure you go to tednugent.com. Ted's got great merchandise there. He's got his red hat that's got a slogan that I can't say because it's family friendly, Ted. Family friendly.
I got it blocked out. Oh, and here's one for you. Here, a guy, we raised some money for some charities with this autographed photo by Shemaine and I, and those will actually be available soon on my website.
All right, so that's at tednugent.com. If you want merchandise, we have some awesome merchandise at thespiritcampfire.com. Make sure you get Shemaine's book. Make sure you also just be kind to your neighbor. That's all we ask. Listen, hope you guys are back here Thursday, 9 o'clock, same place, same wherever you're watching. We're all over the place. God bless you all. And Ted, lead us out with a lick of some kind.
Happy 4th of July, Independence Day, every damn day. We're going to start off the next show with the national anthem. That's what I think we're going to do.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. God bless.
Live it up. Thank you, John.
Want to see the new awesome can design for Killcliff? Oh? Ooh. Not yet. Now, stop right there. All right, enough clowning around. Let them see it. Not! Killcliff, the new Awesomeneer can design. Coming soonish. Go to killcliff.com.